If UNC wins out and beats an undefeated Clemson, do they make the playoff? Oh, I guess, excuse me.
No longer undefeated.
No longer undefeated. But let's say Clemson is still one loss, that it's a matchup of one-loss teams in Charlotte. UNC beats Clemson. Do they make the college football playoff? And does Drake Maye being a Heisman candidate actually help their chances?
I don't think there's enough context in this scenario to know for sure, but a one-loss ACC champion, as long as Clemson doesn't lose another game before the ACC championship, yeah, they should crack the top 4. But if TCU's undefeated, Ohio State's undefeated, Georgia's undefeated, and Oregon's a one-loss Pac-12 champ or USC's a one-loss Pac-12 champ, there's no guarantee that North Carolina is going to crack that 4, because as we see where the committee looks at them now, they clearly don't think they're very good, even though they basically have the same damn resume USC has.
Who are their wins if they do that? Because NC State would be unranked. Wake would be unranked. Pitt
At the end.
is still unranked. Right. Yeah. So, I think they have a
NC
problem
State
here.
might be still
NC
ranked.
State, if that's only their third loss, if they have 2 losses going into the final week of the regular season, I mean, they're heavily favored against Boston College. If they are a 9-2 team and they fall to 9-3 because they lose to North Carolina, then I think that NC State could end up in the top 25.
Certainly possible. Kind of depends on what Louisville and FSU.
Notre Dame. It all comes back to Notre Dame. They need Notre Dame to win out because it helps them if they're compared against USC. They're a 3.5-point dog this week against Wake. I mean, the chances of them running the table, I think, are very long for that to actually happen. But hey, Boo Corrigan gave us the explanation for how you can make the case. They have Drake Maye. I mean, isn't that how he justified USC being so far ahead of the other teams in the Pac-12?
Listen, if they lose to Wake Forest this weekend, as long as it's an emotional game, they're going to be fine.
Listen,
you guys taking the committee explanation seriously, like they don't just make it up week to week.
We're not taking it seriously.
They totally do.
So, Danny, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was actually just searching through the transcript because I wanted to pull it up, because the explanation for the USC UCLA disparity is, Caleb Williams has 28 touchdown passes.
They're scoring 41 points a game. UCLA's only scoring 40.8.
It was an emotional game. Just fantastic stuff right there.
That was, I have no answer. I'm just going to start reeling off numbers as they roll into my head.
But now that he's used it, how many? And you can know, you can refer player stats. Like, hey, they got Drake Maye.
You look at the emotion of that game. They had just had the emotion control was one of the highest emotion controls that we've been able to rate so far this season.
So in that sense, that's why I thought it was an interesting addition to the question. Does Drake Maye being a Heisman candidate help North Carolina's chances? Apparently.
Yeah, apparently it does.
If you have a star quarterback who's lighting it up and putting up some of the best statistics in the country, then it's listen, got to have him in the playoff. I know that they don't have a lot of ranked wins, but they got Drake Maye.
Clearly, instead of sending writers with Heisman votes like cool bobbleheads and stuff, they need to send the selection committee stuff. Send the selection committee a Drake Maye bobblehead. See if they'll bump you up in the rankings next week.
Drake Maye is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think that's unarguable.
No one would not want to see Drake Maye in the playoff.
What?
Who would not want to see that? I know I kind of got a little argument on Twitter this morning about playoff expansion. And I welcome you guys to watching the show. If we're doing good live viewer numbers, I hope some of y'all joined. Think about how much better some of this November would be if some of these elite quarterbacks were still in the playoff race, right? I mean, do you want to see Quinn Ewers in the playoff? I'd watch that game. What about Drake Maye? That altogether makes the semifinal interesting if I get to see a guy who we all think, has number 1 pick potential. There's a lot of these games that would have more juice this weekend.
So you're saying, because that game has juice regardless, but if North Carolina lost, the rest of their games would still have juice.
I don't think a lot of people think that North Carolina has a real shot to go if they run the table. And I don't think the Vegas odds say they do either. You can bet on right now who to go to the playoff. TCU or Texas, excuse me, I'll get it right here. Tennessee, that's the third T, is an overwhelming number 3 right now. If you look at FanDuel, they're minus 250 to make the playoff, which is kind of crazy, but still. I think that game has more juice because it's if you know that the ACC champion is going right now, they'll probably have to go play a road game. It has not been a very good conference this year.